Hello, everyone. I'm joined today by Jax Vos, who is a really cool guy who has a YouTube channel. He's talked about a myriad of things on there, some EU theories. He's talked about the Clone Wars television series from Dave Filoni, and he's had some really cool videos on there. And he's a Star Wars Expanding Universe fan, and I'm really excited to get to talk with him today. How are you?
I'm good, Brennan. Thank you.
We've been meaning to do this for for quite some time now.
About a month almost.
Yes, but we've finally the stars have aligned.
Right. Right. First I had issues, then you had issues, but finally worked out.
Yeah, I love the shirt, by the way. Fellow
Oh
Empire
yeah,
Imperial Knights.
I wore this on purpose.
That's so cool. How did you get that?
I stumbled upon it on Facebook. Someone was selling these like one-off sets, and it was like one of like 20 some that they were doing, and I seized my opportunity, and you know, then they disappeared. I never saw or heard from them again.
That's so cool. That's definitely an awesome shirt to have.
Yeah, it's my favorite one. It's the only EU shirt I have. So.
It's always fun to have some EU shirts. I
Oh
have
yeah,
have a
yeah.
couple back there, but I didn't coordinate.
Ah, you're okay. You're okay. So
So, to start this thing, the first question that I have for people in this series is, what is your first memory of Star Wars in general?
so mine's kind of unusual. So I was 6, and I had pardon me for a moment there. Okay. I had a and I like my mom was saying, I'm gonna rent some Star Wars tapes and we'll watch them. Well, I was really tired of waiting, and I was being watched by a coworker's son, and like he was like, "Do you want to watch Star Wars?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." So that was how I first watched A New Hope. And then my mom was like, "Okay, now we have to get them." And I
So,
watched the versions that I'm the most familiar with were the '97 editions.
those
That
were
was what I
the
grew up with.
those were the tapes that they had on hand then.
And those were the version. I think those are the best versions of the
Yeah.
original trilogy. I don't know. I do think the original version of Funky Town being played at Jabba's Palace, though, I do think that is. I think that's a little. I think that's a little more fun in some ways.
Yeah, those are fun additions. That's the first time that they put Jabba into A New Hope, right? In those editions.
Yeah, yeah, that was the first time, and I think that one looks better, to be honest, as opposed to because they just CGI'd the original puppet. Not a big
Mm.
fan of the modern one where he's very green for some reason. I was a
Yeah.
little confused by that.
So you watch these with this. Did
I
you
just
say
watched the first one with him. Then I watched the rest of them with my mom.
nice? And so immediately liked it.
Oh yeah, I loved it. And then what was it? I think for my birthday that year, or it was either Christmas. It was either Christmas that following year, or that it was either Christmas that year or my birthday the following year that that I got the Phantom Menace.
Nice.
Because by then that had already come out on tape, and then I was just old enough that my mom was comfortable letting me see um, Attack of the Clones when that came out in theaters.
So you got to go to theaters for that one.
Yeah, yeah.
How was that?
Oh, it was great. I loved it. I mean, as a kid, it was great, but as an adult, it's like, man, that movie's very disappointing.
Did you then go on to see Revenge of the Sith in
Oh,
theaters
of
as well?
course, I saw that. I saw it twice in theaters. Revenge of the Sith.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that once just with my mom, and then I saw it again with my mom and my uncle, and I think someone else was there with us, but I don't remember.
So, which of these films that you saw from an early age has been your favorite?
uh, I think I think my ultimate favorite to this day is still Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
That is probably my favorite one in total. That yeah, I think since I was about 10, which is when I was able to kind of solidify that opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I think that became my official.
That became your official favorite.
Yeah, yeah, and it
Nice.
hasn't changed in that whole time.
That's awesome. That's my personal favorite as well. Just such a happy ending.
Oh, I know. That's what I love about it. You know.
So, after loving these movies, what was your first exposure to the idea that there was more than the movies?
So what was it? So I had known that there were books for a while before I got into the EU. Then um, either right before Revenge of the Sith came out or just after, I actually got a couple of books. Um, the Unfortunately, it was like the middle of the New Jedi Order, the Dark Tide duology,
Okay.
which is kind of a problem. It's like, well, that's not the ideal place to start. But weirdly, I wasn't terribly lost. Like I was like, oh, um, like, but the like, there, Jason's not in there. He's alluded to, but he's not in it. Anakin's dead already, and you're like, I feel like I'm coming in the middle of the story, but I'm really not lost.
Yeah. So you enjoyed it despite not
Yeah,
having the
I
full
did.
context.
Yeah, I mean, Ben is already born by Dark Tide, so like I was like, okay, so I'm like, wait, like, because then I looked at the front of the book because it gave like when this happens, and I'm like, wait a minute, how long between? That's a long time.
So you got these right around after Revenge of the Sith, then you said?
Yeah, yeah, right around that time, right around that time. Well, actually my first thing outside of, well, I didn't get into the books until then, but I forgot my first introduction into the expanded universe was actually, well, my very first was the yeah, it was the Republic comics, the Clone Wars Republic comics. That was my very first. It was my dad bought me the Jedi, uh, the ones that were titled Jedi,
Yeah.
and then he bought me the Obsession arc.
Nice. Very good stuff.
Oh yeah, very yeah. Of course, he was confused by it because he wasn't really reading them. So now I have the omnibus myself. So
Nice.
yeah.
And that's partly inspiration for the name Jax Vos with
Yes,
those
yes.
Republic
Quinlan
comics.
Voss is one of my inspirations, um, and some people think Jax Pavan is where I get the Jax from. No, the Jax is actually Carnor Jax.
Okay, Karner Jax. Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. So
Yeah,
I was thinking like Jax Pavin, Karner Jax Jackson, maybe even the Green Bunny. But
yeah. So, well, actually, the real origin to the name, it does come from them a little bit, but the real origin, when I start when I started, I found online role play uh, Star Wars communities, and when I did my initial join, when I initially joined, I created. I think the character like Jax was just kind of a name that had
Mm.
popped in and out, and I and like I had picked like it was something like Jax, and I like came up with a really random name, and it was like Skill Wash or something like that, and totally random and weird. And at that point, I would have been. I was about 14 or 15 at that
Mm.
time, and then I was like, then I changed it to Jax Vos, and then I was like, let's shorten it down, and like a Carnor Jax anyway. So those are my two primary inspirations. Yeah, it kind of came in a circular way.
It got there in the
But
end,
yeah,
and two great characters, Quinlan Voss and Carter
yeah,
Jax.
right, right, yeah.
So
Well, Quinlan was always my inspiration. Like I always loved Quinlan.
yeah, really great character. Kind of obviously, my channel's name is inspired from him too.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
That's
were
what.
you a big fan of Crimson Empire as well?
Yes, yes, I was. When I found out about Crimson Empire, I was like, "Oh, that is fantastic." Sadly, I do not have any issues from it currently. Um, kind of kind of lost. I never actually had my own issues. I was able to find them at a library, but I never got my own. I do need to. Well, I do need to get a set of it. Uh, I think there's a what is it 3 volumes now? Um,
Yeah, that
yeah.
you and you can get it in the Epic collection as well. That
Yeah.
has
Oh,
all
yeah,
of
that's
them.
right. That's right. It's part of the Epic collection. That's where I have my legacy comics.
Nice.
I still need to get the legacy two. Um, they just made it like the I think what is it volume 4 in the Epic collection.
Yep. So after Republic, were you really interested in delving into just the entire universe of Star Wars comics?
Yeah, it became a huge thing for me. I didn't get too much further into the comics beyond Legacy. Legacy was what was more interesting to me in the comics. I did get a little bit into going back into some of the older stuff. I now have one of the early Marvel omnibuses from like the original run.
Yeah.
I also have I also have the what is it? Splinter of the Mind's Eye comics.
Mm.
I have those. Um, and then I actually recently got um, a friend of mine. His grandparents were moving and they were getting rid of some stuff, and they had the original um, Star Wars comic books that came out when the movie came out.
Okay.
So
Nice.
like the comic book form of the movie, which is it's so different when you look at it.
Yes,
It is
because it
so
was
different.
it was based on some of the drafts. So there's like
Yeah,
deleted scenes in there and stuff.
yeah. Which I was like, awesome. This is great. And I used to have. There was a time I had the novelization of A New Hope, and I honestly don't know what happened to it. It probably got lost. I've moved 4 times since
Yeah.
then. So
It just kind of
yeah,
gets
yeah, and
misplaced.
yeah, and I stupidly gave away my because once I found the books, I got really into the books, and I had a handful of the Jedi Apprentice series, and I gave them all away. And I'm like, at this point in my life, I'm like, I really regret this. Why did I do that?
Yeah, that's very relatable. Sometimes when you have some stuff, you're like, well, I don't maybe need this anymore, and
Yeah,
comes back to bite you.
yeah.
The Jedi Apprentice books
Weirdly,
are really
weirdly,
good.
I still have I have a couple of the Jedi Prince series books. I never had the
Nice.
full collection, But the ones I have, I'm like, yes, I still have those.
How do you feel about Jedi Prince? Do you enjoy it?
uh, it was I like when I first initially got it. Bear in mind, I didn't know all of the stuff that I know now about the EU. At the time, I really enjoyed it. Now, knowing the timeline of things, I think it's very weird. Because Triclops is kind of young.
Yeah.
He's a little younger than I thought he would be. Um, like
He
I was like,
is, yeah. A little concerning, perhaps.
right, right, like a little too young.
Yes, and then Han and Leia's like wedding ceremony that's set up in the end of the sixth one as well.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing, and then you find out like through courtship of Princess Leia that wait, that doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
So
And the authors had said that they originally planned a 789 where like the Empire would have
right,
interrupted the wedding and it didn't happen. So like in my mind
right,
I'm like, okay, well that's what happened, but at the same time it's just very strange.
right. It is kind of an unusual thing that they did it that way. Like I have a feeling that had they been able to finish that properly,
Mm,
that it would have answered that question and would have made it very clearly a C canon storyline that
mm.
flows. Because like I think technically it is considered C canon,
Yeah.
but it feels very S.
It does. It does. For sure. Another project that is technically C canon that you have done some great videos talking about why it can't be is Filoni's Clone Wars show.
Right. Well, yeah. It genuinely can't be. It really just doesn't fit. I did watch it and I did enjoy it for its purpose, for what it
Mm,
was. I did watch the whole thing, and then when I really started breaking it down, I was like, T Cannon's location doesn't make sense.
yeah.
It doesn't fit. It contradicts too much that already exists, and it causes more problems uh, inside of C Cannon.
Yes.
While George did cause a couple of problems inside of C Cannon himself, most of those were easily explained. With TCW, it just caused a lot of problems. I'm not going to get into that. If you really want to see that, go watch my channel.
It's the
Just
videos
be prepared
basically
for about 5 hours worth of content.
the videos I've seen quite a few of them. They're really good.
Yeah,
I'd recommend checking them out. It's like the YouTuber Mandalore does some videos about like why
yeah,
it could fit, and I think Holocron Keeper Evan does as well. And basically, it's the other side of that coin, why it can't.
right,
And I really enjoy those videos.
right. I did do one of how it could have fit if it had worked a different way. Um, like, and strangely, I've looked at some things and I found that originally it wasn't Dave Filoni's original intent to do an Anakin Obi-Wan storyline, and I'm like, and it was George who made him go there. I'm I like this is the problem. Like one of the things that, and this is, and bear in mind, I love the prequels, but like there are minimal like inconsistencies, and there are some potential storylines where that could have worked a little better
Mm,
had George not surrounded himself with people who were just going to say yes to everything.
yes.
Like the prequels were all it was George Lucas and yes man. And it's
Yeah.
like if you look at the original trilogy and you look at George's idea, it's like each movie, his original idea is drastically changed in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And because and if he had had people who would have said, "Well, George, this would make more sense," certain things would have gone a little differently. I
Definitely.
think.
I think there's a video that illustrates that.
Mm,
There's a video of George Lucas showing Steven Spielberg battle droids, and Spielberg saying, "Oh, this is going to be so great," and stuff like that, and basically just
mhm.
like really building up George's ideas and kind of just yes men saying yes, that's going to be perfect
Yeah.
to everything.
No, and to be honest, I wish that I wish that more that he'd had more people involved, like actually tell him, George, this isn't a good idea, and like I get where he was going with Darth Maul, Count Dooku, and uh, General Grievous. I get where he was going with them, and I get the idea of foreshadowing Vader, but these are very clearly separate stories that happen to different people. In his mind, he wants one cohesive story. Well, the prequels don't flow the same way that the original trilogy does,
No.
and I just wish that he had less of that. And going back to like the Clone Wars, like had Dave Filoni actually fought George a little bit, I think we would have gotten a better story that would have caused um, way less problems, and I think people would love it a lot more,
Yeah.
you know.
If it
But at
had
the
been
same time, there are there like the way that I went with it was focusing on Plo Koon, and that's the last video I uploaded to YouTube, and like that was my idea personally because it just
yeah.
made more sense. Plo Koon is a fantastic character, and he does not get enough love in the EU in particular. He gets a little bit, but not enough.
Yeah.
So I thought that it would make more sense, and like even Ahsoka is not necessarily a bad character. She's annoying when you meet her, but she's not a bad character.
Mm-mm.
But she should not be paired with Anakin,
No.
and Anakin definitely should not have an apprentice ever. I
Definitely.
don't know what George was thinking with that one.
I have no clue. But yeah, you have some good ideas for how to fix it.
Right,
If it had been a bit more like a successor to Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, perhaps there would have been
right.
less error
I
there.
mean, the only other way it would fit is if T Cannon put was put below C Cannon. It
Yeah.
would have just been a better setup. Uh,
I
that's
mean,
just
T
how it
canon
is.
is basically S canon with the amount of contradictions there are.
Right. It has more it has so many contradictions. It's confusing, and I don't mind that. Like even like Anaconda Farr, who had no EU appearances beforehand, he was George Lucas's creation,
Mm.
but I don't mind that he's added. I don't mind that at all. In fact, in a lot of ways, I think it makes sense. He's an ideal character to like
Mm.
we a Rhodian senator. Well, of course,
Yeah.
you know like someone's got to be representing Rhodia.
Yeah. There were
It's not
ideas
right,
there that could have worked.
right. Like I just think that certain things could have gone a little better.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think a lot of EU fans are right there with you in that boat. In all of your forays into the Star Wars expanded universe so far, what novel would you name as your favorite novel?
my favorite novel. Oh boy.
It's a hard question.
It is a hard question. It is a very hard question, and just choosing one is very difficult.
You could name your a handful.
Well, if I were to say my favorite, like just singular novel, would probably be Darth Plagueis.
Yeah,
I think as a standalone story, um, that just is by itself. I think it's very well done.
mhm,
Very flows very well. I do like Mall Lockdown pretty well as well. That's
yeah,
a good one, especially for like a mall fan like I am. My my other favorite Star Wars shirt is actually like a Maul skull.
That's so cool.
It's fantastic, and it says "Sit happens."
Gotcha.
But yeah, I love it. Um, but yeah, like I love Darth Maul. Sadly, I didn't get too into Darth Maul until more recently in my life, so I'm just now getting Darth Maul stuff. But if I were to say my absolute favorite story is probably the Hand of Thrawn duology.
Okay. The
That is
capper
probably my
to the
favorite
Bantam
story.
era.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Like towards the end of the Bantam era.
yeah, is it your favorite because of how it kind of wraps up that era of
Yeah.
storytelling?
It's because like it bridges. It finally brings uh Mara and Luke together
Yeah.
in a way that, well, the fans always wanted them to be together. Fans always wanted them to be like that, and it just led to everything that we end up getting later on. I just like the way that it just brings about a, I don't know what the right way to put this is. It changes the way that you kind of see a lot of the characters,
Mm.
and it's a good like end of it, it's a nice like way to like bring about like towards the end of the Bantam era. I want to say there was like one more book after that.
Yeah,
Um,
Starfighters of Adamar.
yeah, okay. And then so like for me that was like the ideal ending for Luke and Leia and Han in the Bantam era, and it kind of looks to another future, um, and that, so I just love that. And then um, one like my the one Timothy Zahn book I haven't gotten to yet, still shockingly, is the is what is it? It's the one. It's the first one that he did after that. It was
Survivor's Quest.
yeah, Survivor's Quest. That's it. Yeah, that one is like, it's the one book of his that I haven't read yet, that I'm like really looking forward to.
Yeah.
I've got a lot. I've still got a handful I haven't read. But Darth Plagueis is the one that I regularly revisit as an individual story, and then I of course revisit all of the Thrawn books
Yeah.
because that's what I do. I also really like Darth Bane trilogy. I am to this day incredibly disappointed that we never got a Darth Xana story.
Yep.
To this day, I am very disappointed in that, and
And
I
the
really wish
author Drew Karpyshyn has said he'd like to do it too. So
he would, but because they won't do EU stories, and he won't do a Disney canon story. That's part of it, and they
yeah.
won't let him mainly because of that. And if they would just allow the EU to continue, Drew, I think he already has a first draft technically.
He's definitely got it in his mind at the very
Right.
least.
If nowhere else, he definitely has it in his head. He's definitely got it there. Because I have looked into what he said, and he's very clearly stated that if they give him the green light, he'll write it.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if he has if he already has the story outlined,
Yeah.
and he just needs to actually write it.
Yep. It seems like he's
Like,
chomping at the bit to write it. He loves the
oh yeah.
characters, and we would love to read it, like he said.
I think he was trying to negotiate for that before the Disney deal, and then the Disney deal happened, and he was like, well, it's in Lucasfilm's hands now. They know I'm willing to write it, but I'm not gonna change. I'm not gonna go with their new stuff. This is gonna be a sequel to the Darth Bane storyline.
Yeah.
And I'm not rewriting that.
Definitely.
But
Definitely where he's at, I think.
yeah,
Uh, so you said you've read all of the Timothy Zahn books other than Survivor's Quest.
no, I have not read the Mara Jade books.
Okay.
I haven't read those, but those aren't like those of the major ones, those and what is the other one? The smugglers one,
Scoundrels.
scoundrels. Yeah, scoundrels. That one. Those. What is that?
For
4 books. 4 books. Yeah,
yeah.
those four I have not read. Those are the four that um, I'm kind of when it comes to uh, them, and I like when I've looked into them, it's like I don't really care so much about Mara's pre uh, Return of the Jedi storyline that much. I don't care as much about it.
Yeah.
Not that I would hate it, but it's not on my like. I even have I think I have choices of one. I just haven't read it. Um, it just
It's
hasn't been
just
a
high
drive.
priority.
Yeah. No, my primary I Crucible is probably the one book that like I was very disappointed in
Mm,
out of all the EU books that I've read.
yeah.
And I don't even blame Troy Denning for how that ended. I blame Lucasfilm and Disney for the way that it ended. It was kind of like it could have ended much like it looks to a future, but I also feel like it could have been. I feel like the story could have been better planned out, and
Yeah.
I think that he kind of got rushed on it, so he kind of just
It it
tied up.
definitely wasn't a good ending.
No, it's not a place to end. It's like I don't mind Luke kind of going into retirement and Han and Leia taking it easy. I don't mind that setup, but and again, we're still like we've been trying for what is it now, almost 10 years,
Yeah.
um,
Sort
to
of the
get Sword
Jedi.
of the Jedi published, because we do know that the first book was written. We
Yeah.
know that the author has told us that. But what was it, Christy Golden who was writing it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be
Christy Golden.
golden.
Yeah, she said that she got the first book done and then they canceled it.
Yeah.
I'm sure she still has it, but
Probably.
you know, they're not willing to publish it.
No.
It's
And
it's
it would make them
aggravating.
money and it would make us
Right,
happy. It's a
right.
win-win.
And they know it'll make them money. They're still doing re-releases of the books.
Yeah.
The essential collection,
Yeah. Put a new book in the Essential Legends collection and we'd all go crazy.
right, do a new book and the whole like the thing is that Pete like the more casual Star Wars readers, they still get Legends stuff.
Yeah.
I know plenty of people who read both canon and Legends, and I'm
In
like,
Legends, yeah.
you. And for some of them, I'm like, you do realize these are separate timelines, separate stories, and like some of them don't fully recognize that. And I
Yeah.
have to like point out like this new stuff is different from the old stuff. You have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like if you watch the sequels and then you read Legacy, you're totally going to be confused. You're like, wait, Luke was married? Like, how does
it's gonna
that
be
work?
super confusing for sure.
Right. Like if you and that's the thing. Like it was and that's the thing. It never should have had this reboot that we ended up with. It never should have happened, but it did, and we're willing to have two Star Wars universes. We are.
Yes, we are.
None of us is saying get rid of the new canon. No one's saying
Nope.
that. We're all saying let's run both.
Yep.
Okay, Legends can stick with comics and books, and we will be happy. Okay, you can do whatever you want with your new canon. It's fine, but just continue Legends. We
It
already
doesn't.
got Star Wars 108,
Mm.
and some people complained about some minor continuity issues, which, from what I saw, they were not enough to really make any complaint about.
No,
I'm like, it's still Legends. It's still Legends,
for
and
sure.
that sold well.
Yeah.
So like, they know there's a market. They know
Mhm.
there's a market for it. They're they know that the Legend stuff sells a lot more than their own newer stuff. Like,
And it doesn't seem like a big ask to ask for just a couple books and comics.
no, and like, all we want is just like the books that were already in mind, and then maybe like one or two books a year. You know, like, we'll be happy with that. No
Yep.
one will, like, because they're still gonna get people buying old books anyway, because there are like straight up collectors who like to have multiple copies of different books.
Yep.
You know, I'm not one of those people. I want one copy and I'm happy.
That's yeah. That that's fair. So you said your first book series a while ago, or your first introduction with the novels was like with the New Jedi Order, kind of halfway through.
Yeah.
Uh, did you revisit the New Jedi Order and read it again? And did you enjoy it
um,
as much as with those first ones?
I have. I read the first two books, and they because I was a little more curious about Anakin Solo,
Mm.
because you get quite a bit of, because I did go get into uh, Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi. You get a lot of Jaina, especially. I was more interested in Ben at the time,
Mm.
but but like, there's constant reference to Anakin Solo, and so I was like, okay,
Yes.
so I'm kind of curious about Anakin, and I'm looking at, and then, so that's why I did that. And, Vector Prime was painful. It was very painful. It was one of the most painful. So it was one of the like, Chewbacca dying was so painful. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming, and it was still like,
Soul
even
crushing.
it was still soul crushing, because you can't prepare for it.
Mm-mm.
No matter how hard you try, you cannot prepare for that story.
I have screenshotted the pages that depict his death on my phone. I have it in my photo reel. Sometimes I'll find it and I'll just like start tearing up all over
Right,
again.
right. And then when Elagos died,
Oh,
I was like, what? Like, he was just becoming significant. Like,
yeah.
no.
And they
Like,
do that. They just play with your heartstrings in New Jedi Order.
it's like, like, the only death that I'm looking forward to, that we haven't gotten to yet, is Borsk Failure.
So, have you not gotten to Star by Star then yet?
No, I have not gotten to Star by Star yet.
Okay.
Um,
That's both painful and got the Borsk Failure death there.
right, right. It's both exciting and painful. That's what I've been told. I'm like, uh, don't do
But
that to me.
overall, you've been enjoying New Jedi Order then.
Oh yeah. Like, I've been taking breaks because it's a long series, and I
Yeah.
gotta I gotta read other stuff. I got other Star Wars stuff, and I do audiobooks for
Mm.
some of the bigger things, which is why I'm somewhat disappointed that they never did audiobooks for the new Jedi Order, like, unabridged ones. But I
Yeah.
also understand why that wouldn't be in the essential collection, because as because it's too big.
It would take
It's
up
too
like
much.
6 or 7
It's
waves.
right. Like they would have to. Well, I mean, I feel like there are some books you could skip over, but it would get difficult
Yeah,
to decide which books you can, which books are worth skipping.
for
um,
sure.
so, but yeah, uh, yeah, I think I, I do also like the Clone Wars novels as well.
Mm.
Um, Shatterpoint especially is like that. That is so well done. Um, I was amazed at how well done it was. Like it was just so. Uh,
It's
um,
gritty.
oh, it is. It is. I've also read Jedi Trial. That one, I like my biggest excitement for that was Nija Halcyon.
Yeah,
That was my greatest excitement because you actually get him, and he's like you get to
he's in his
see
prime.
his relationship with Anakin.
Yeah,
It's really good. It was really good. I thought that was a fantastic story. You know, I'm almost certain that Tonith in the in there like is like Chairman Tonith's like nephew or something.
so you mentioned earlier Mall Lockdown as well as
Yeah,
being one of your favorites. That's one of my favorites, but it's one that's kind of overlooked sometimes.
it is a lot of the time. So here's an interesting thing. Before I got really into doing like this YouTube channel, I did have a plan to do an like an audio drama of like starting with the Darth Bane trilogy, and then I had a plan to do like a like a like a Darth Plagueis based thing, but my plan was to incorporate elements of Mall Lockdown, uh, the um, the Yinchori uh, arc in the comics, and Cloak of Deception
Mm,
into it. But it was like, and that was, but the initial thing kind of fell through. But uh, but yeah, so like I had this whole idea of how to like map it out because there are because with Mall Lockdown, it's locate people are confused on its location
mm,
in the timeline, especially with uh, Darth Plagueis, because it references Ariadu, but it takes place before that.
yeah.
And a lot of people are confused because it's referenced, and it's like, well, no, because it's already in the working stages.
Hmm. Yes.
So the idea is that what happened is that Palpatine told Maul about this, and Maul was aware. Maul was aware of it, and he's like, "What do you want me to do?" And he's like, "Oh, you don't have a purpose for this job, for this role. This isn't your this isn't your place." And then like for probably like set just before he goes into the whole deciding on the Ariadu operation, like before the whole thing in the Senate with it, like it if you like it's like taking place right before it'd be like taking place right before that whole thing happens. It's like right before that, and then like that's how I would break it up, because like it does get confusing with that, but like because that book references James Luceno's work, but it's not a James Luceno book.
Yeah.
So so that's where the problem comes in. I think is that had James been a little more involved in that, maybe it would have made a little more sense. But I forget who wrote Mall Lockdown.
Joe Schreiber.
Yeah, he I think he was he had this idea, and it was a really good idea, and I think he was trying to fit it, but he was just making an allusion to something. Um, and I think a lot of people are confused because it's a vague reference to
Yeah.
Ariadu, and people are thinking, well, that's an inconsistency. It's not necessarily an inconsistency because it's meant to take place before that.
Yeah.
It's just like it's already in the works. Like, but people don't seem to always realize that things can happen at separate times.
Yeah.
You know. Um,
In regards to the comic books,
oh yes,
back to the comic books that you started with Republic, and you're wearing a shirt that has the Legacy comics
yes.
depicted on it. What comic book, and again, this will be a hard question, would you point to as your favorite comic book series within the expanded universe?
Well, I would say Legacy is my favorite. Um,
Nice.
and again, I do like the Republic comics as well. They're really good, really well thought out. I like Crimson Empire. I
Yeah.
also like Dark Empire a lot, but I would say Legacy is my favorite of all of them. Uh, has a lot of original ideas and a lot of original concepts, and like I thought it was a really good um, way to bridge the gap and to kind of just show like, hey, like this is the future here. And I
Yeah.
really liked that Darth Crate turned out to be a Sharad head. It was kind of
Yes.
implied. If you really look at his face, you can kind of tell.
Yes.
But like, I mean, obviously you only get a little bit of his face. But if you really look, it's like, well, it's obvious if you're really looking. But
Yeah.
people
It's
don't.
quite a crazy twist.
Oh yeah, you know but like it was funny because like I want to say it was like about half the when they had people like guess it was about I want to say almost half the guesses were a shard head. And then because I think this came out because legacy comics, I want to say they came out uh concurrent with Legacy of the Force, I want to
Yeah,
say.
2008. Yeah,
Yeah,
2009,
yeah,
2010.
yeah, that sounds right. And so a lot of people. So I want to say the next highest percentage was Jason Solo, and then because like they did say Darth Crate is someone you've met before. They made that clear.
Yeah.
And I think one of the guesses was Quinlan Voss. I was like, in
I'm
what
glad
world?
I'm glad it wasn't.
I'm like, in what world could this possibly be Quinlan Voss? This
I
is not
mean, yeah.
Quinn. No way. Not with that. No, no, no. There, like, I do not see Quinn Jarkaiing it up. No, he's not a Jarkai guy. It's no, it's not his thing. I
Yeah.
mean, the guy was clearly, human or very near human. Uh, but like when it was revealed to be a shard head, I was like, this is not surprising at all. Like it made sense.
Yeah. In regards to characters, what characters would you point to as your favorite expanding universe characters? And what are your favorite characters from the films? What are your favorite characters from specifically the expanding universe? And what character from the films do you think was expanded upon in the EU in a way that made their character like better? That's kind of a three-faceted question. So
So, I'll start with the EU. My ultimate favorite character uh, to this day is Jaina Solo.
nice.
Uh, very close second is Quinlan Voss, followed by Mara Jade. That is my hierarchy of favorite EU original characters. But I love a lot of them.
Hmm.
I could name like all of my top five, but I'm not going to do that right now. As far as my favorite movie character, oh, that's a tough one. Um, um, I would say. my my favorite character of the movies is probably
Oh, I would hate to be asked this question. I'd be thinking about this for a long time.
and uh probably Luke, which I know that can sound like cliche, but at the same time, like if you, but I've also heard a lot of people say that they hate Luke.
Yeah,
So, which surprises me
me as
sometimes
well. Yeah.
because I'm like he's the main hero. Why would you dislike him? But you know, like I just love the story of I just love the hero's journey, and that's a big thing to me. I just think it's a good storyline. The way that the way that it was executed from beginning to end was just so good. You know, the Leia twist was a little awkward. I have to be honest. Like even as a kid, like again, I was like 6, and when you find out Leia's his sister, it's like, um, so like that's a little weird. But you know, once you watch it 10 times, you get over it,
Yeah, you're numb to the pain.
right? Um, but yeah, my favorite character that was expanded on from the movies in the EU, uh, I would actually say that would be Anakin,
Mm,
because in the movies he's kind of a lackluster character.
mm-hmm.
Um, he's not that great as a character. Like you feel like in Revenge of the Sith, you do feel the pain of him turning, and like, but you feel more uh, Padme and Obi Wan's pain. You don't really feel the pain. You don't really feel so much for Anakin, uh, like when you're just boiling it down to the movies. But when you've read the books and the comics, you really get more of a feel for who Anakin is. That's why I like of the book novel of the novelizations. Uh, Revenge of the Sith is my favorite novelization, but my second favorite is actually Attack of the Clones. Uh,
Interesting.
well, it there is so much that was cut out of that movie that when I go through that book, I think there, like, especially the scenes on Naboo with Padme's family, I'm like, why did you
Yes,
cut these? Because I
there's a
know they were
lot.
filmed. I watched the deleted scenes, and I was
I
like,
did too. Anakin talking to Padme's father, for example, like in
right,
the garden.
it would like it. That's a scene that should have been in there. It it would have allowed the development of their relationship to feel more real, more natural.
Yes,
Because
meeting the parents in that
right,
relationship.
and it was something that I really liked. Um, and I did like the prologue, like actually getting like what happened to Shmi in the novelization. I know in a movie you probably wouldn't want that, but I get why it was done that way, and I thought it was really good. I thought it made a lot of sense, you know. But those are my two favorite novelizations. Uh, I do like the other ones, but I don't like them as much. Uh,
Yeah.
like the like the Phantom Menace one. I appreciated the reference to Bane. Um, I was slightly disappointed um, that the re- that when Padme reveals that she is the queen, I was disappointed that that was from her perspective.
Mm,
I was disappointed in that moment because I
it should
wanted
have
that.
been the reactions.
I wanted Qui-Gon's perspective on that in that scene. I wanted Qui-Gon's perspective. I didn't care so much about Anakin's perspective. I don't think his reaction would have helped. I think Qui-Gon's reaction would have been the ideal choice
Yeah.
because again, like if you've read the novelization, you know he's constantly judging her because
Yes.
he's like she's not the queen. Why is she constantly like why is the queen constantly turning to her? There's no
Yeah.
reason for this. And then, but of course, we're in the know because we know by this point that this is Padme, and Padme is the queen.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, and that was why I was like, oh, I hope that that the reveal is from his perspective because I read it after I'd seen the movies, and then I get there and it's her perspective, and I'm like, why is it her perspective?
Yes. Yeah. That's unfortunate. They could have had it more shocking with someone
Oh
seeing the
yeah, I
reveal.
think it would have been great. Even Obi-Wan's perspective, because you do get his perspective a little bit in the movie, in the book as well.
Yeah.
But I felt like the primary focal point characters were uh, Qui-Gon, Padme, and Anakin, and
Yeah.
Obi-Wan
Has
kind
a
of
little
filtered in
bit.
and out.
Yeah.
Like, which of course, for the Maul battle, you did need, for the Duel of the Fates, you did need Obi-Wan's perspective because
Yes.
Qui-Gon gets stabbed and is
Yeah.
to
You
account for about half of that battle.
you couldn't have Qui Gon's account after he'd been skewered.
Right, it's like, yeah. And it's easier if you don't have to change, and I don't remember, it's been a little bit since I read it. I don't remember if it starts with Qui-Gon and then switches to Obi-Wan, or if Obi-Wan is through the whole
I think
fight.
it
But I think,
there's some
well,
Qui Gon in there. I think, right?
it does kind of cut back and forth, similar to the movie, so it might bounce back and forth in that way.
I think so. Yeah. Um, you've been a Star Wars fan and a Star Wars EU fan since a while now, pretty much since you were
12
a
years.
kid. Yeah. And so, what inspired you to start your YouTube channel? And
Or
um,
sorry, 22 years. Boy, I'm bad at math today.
yeah, 22 years, been a Star Wars fan, been a Star Wars EU fan, pretty much as sounds like pretty much concurrently with the movies back
Yeah.
then. And what inspired you to start your YouTube channel? And for the audience, his channel will be linked in the description. And do you have any future plans for uh, content that could be coming out there?
Well, what inspired me for the channel was just I've been watching like I'm friends with Callum Johns,
Yeah,
and I've been watching a lot of his stuff, and I'm like, I could do something like this. I could do something like this, and I had the idea, and before I started the channel, I had again the idea of the audio dramas, and I was still hoping that they would go when I initially started, and I think it's still on there. My first video is actually a review of The Mandalorian season 2, and and it was again, I thought that it was okay. I didn't like it a whole lot, but what so that was kind of my inspiration for it. You know, and I felt like I needed to kind of talk about how I felt about Star Wars and stuff, and then then I got then I got a hold of Jeff, who I actually I don't remember who I met first now between Jeff and Cal. I don't really remember, but I know I connected with both of them on Facebook. I think I think it was Cal first, and then Jeff, and then I was like, hey, do you want to do a video with me talking about the Clone Wars? And he was like, yes, I'd love to badmouth
Yeah.
Dave Filoni on YouTube for all the world to see.
Sounds like a good time.
So, um, so that was how I was able to really get things rolling, and then I was coming up with ideas. I do have an Obi-Wan Kenobi Siri Tachi video. I was trying to do Jedi relationships. I did record one. I want to say it was for Luke and Mara, but it didn't take well, and I think I recorded it twice, and both times didn't work out too well. So I kind of abandoned it. I've been looking at coming back to that, and then I am uh, I am coming back to EU. I am looking more into EU theories. So that's coming up, and then I am currently working on getting together with Jeff and some other people and looking at like going through individual books and looking and reviewing how each book ties to other elements
That
in
sounds
the
awesome.
EU. Um, I haven't decided what the first book is going to be yet, but I'm gonna do the first, like, so what it'll be is like we'll read like a chapter or two depending, and then we'll talk about like all the connecting points, uh, like just in those, and then that'll be another thing I do with Jeff. Uh,
Will Callum
but I hmm?
will Callum be
No.
involved?
Uh, he so the one thing is that I can't guarantee any one person at a given time. So it would be so I would include Jeff. Callum, he is interested in doing it, but he might not be in until like way later. I might even be on
Yeah.
another book. Um, I have talked to my best friend who is not directly involved in YouTube, but he was interested, and he would be a noob. Um,
He'd be going through
in
it for the
you.
first time.
Yeah, but he is very into Mandalorian culture. He was getting into it even before the Mandalorian came on. So he likes all that stuff, and that is one of the few things that has remained mostly aside from the whole new Mandalorian stuff. Um, aside from that, that has remained mostly consistent between canons. Um, but I mean, they didn't include the new Mandalorians, but it's still in Legends, but it's still kind of a questionable. But yeah, so there are some things. Actually, if you would ever be interested in doing that, you know, let me know.
I'd be honored.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm very excited to watch some of those as well. Sounds like a
Yeah,
great idea.
yeah. It's an idea that I came up with. I've also been a like I was I'm a big fan of certain uh, booktube uh, booktubers, and that's something that I've seen that them do with like looking at like so like in like I don't know how familiar you are with Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire, but the author has a lot of like references to like mythology and other literary works, kind of hidden and almost well hidden in some spots. Like even people who are really knowledgeable, they had to kind of dig a little bit. So
Yeah,
so that was kind of the idea that I was looking at, and I was like, well, with Star Wars, I'd like to look at how it all interconnects
all
because
fits.
it all interconnects in some way. And if you look at the references, and some of the references are really like they're more detailed than you realize
Yeah,
a lot of the time, and like some of them are just casual references, but some of them are like like they give you a little bit of like a real good nugget.
yes,
Especially Darth Plagueis is full of them. For example,
very much so. Yeah,
and that's one of the things I love about that book. But yeah, so yeah, that's just kind of where I got that idea, and it just kind of developed. And then I checked with Jeff, I checked with my best friend, and I checked with Cal, and they were all like, "Sounds great." Cal was like, "I can't commit to anything, but when I can, I'll do it."
Yeah. Callum's
So,
a great guy. I've known him
oh, he
since
is.
2018, 2019.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's about when it was like 2017, 2018 when Cal and I started talking.
nice.
So yeah, yeah.
Uh, well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with
Oh
me.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for inviting me to do this. I've been like, I watched the ones that you already have up, so I was able to prepare myself a little bit.
Well, thank you for watching. I've had a
I'm
lot
loving
of
this.
fun with this series. It's just
Oh
so
yeah,
great to hear other fans' perspectives, their ideas,
yeah,
what they've thought of certain things, and I'm really looking forward to watching your videos with Jeff, your friend, with Callum down the line
yeah.
for the connections in the books. That's going to be great. So your channel will be linked below. So for the viewers, go on over there. He has some great videos already on there, and sounds like some good things to come as well.
All right. All right, guys. Have a good one. May the force be with you.
Yep. We'll see you guys next time. Oh, I've got to end it. All right. There we go.